The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
We are back, folks. This is the More Money Show. Many thanks to Steve Forbes for coming on and sharing his wisdom with us. My next guest is Mike Ybarra. He is the Chief Medical Officer at PhRMA, which represents the pharmaceutical drug industry. He's also a physician at Georgetown University Hospital, so he is an expert on healthcare. I got together with him a couple of weeks ago. We spent about an hour and a half talking about what's going on with the healthcare industry and what's going on with prescription drugs. And I thought nobody better get on the show to educate you about all of this than Mike Ybarra. So, Mike, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve.
So let's start with the new proposal. Are you familiar with the new proposal that the Trump administration has put out on containing drug costs?
Yeah, absolutely. We follow drug pricing really quite closely. It's one of the. Can you hear me, Steve?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about that. We follow issues related to drug pricing really closely because when we think about, what it takes to have a world-class industry here in the United States, a reimbursement system that rewards innovation is really one of the key pieces of the puzzle.
So let's go through then, because look, Americans are concerned about what they call the high cost of prescription drugs, and all the polls are showing people are angry about that. And yet, as you just said, we've dominated the race for the cures for so many amazing breakthroughs in our drugs and vaccines, et cetera. So we do not want to slow the progress we make in curing cancer and heart disease and multiple sclerosis and all these terrible things, Alzheimer's. So, tell me what you like about what Trump has proposed, Mike, and tell me what you don't like about what Trump has proposed, because we all want lower drug prices, but we also, we want to cure these terrible diseases.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you make a lot of really good points. So I'm an emergency physician by training. I take care of patients. And, one of the key things that I always think about is when I'm prescribing a medicine to the patient that I'm taking care of, how are they going to access it? And so oftentimes, that is determined by factors well outside of my control and, quite frankly, well outside of the control of the manufacturer that's making that medicine. When it comes to prescription drugs, we spend decades investing in the R&D needed to come up with a new molecule. There's a lot of basic science research that goes into that. Right. There's years of high-risk R&D. And then at the end of the day, when the medicine is ultimately approved and distributed to patients, about 50 cents on the dollar that is collected for the cost of that prescription goes to somebody other than the manufacturer that's making it. So there's a lot of
where does the other 50 cents where does the other 50 cents go?
Great question. So 50 cents on brand name drugs goes to the manufacturer. The other 50 cents goes to intermediaries in the healthcare supply chain. PBMs, which are known as pharmacy benefit managers, and health insurance companies. They are the ones that sort of negotiate with manufacturers. They extract discounts, and typically those discounts don't flow to patients at the pharmacy counter. And in addition to that, it's really your health insurer and the PBM that decide which drugs are going to be on formulary, what steps you might have to jump through to get access to it. So, from our standpoint, manufacturers bear the scientific risk, and there are others in the supply chain that are capturing a pretty predictable revenue stream that aren't taking on that risk. So when it comes to public policy, I think we've seen some really interesting ideas come out of the administration in terms of, cutting out the middlemen, going directly to patients with some offerings that would allow people to save in some situations by maybe in certain situations, if you have a high deductible health plan, for example, and you're being asked to pay full freight for a prescription medicine, so some of these direct-to-patient offerings, might be a better option for you, and it's something worth looking into. Quite frankly, it's something that I talk to patients about a lot. What patient assistance might be out there for the prescription that I'm prescribing. But then, there are other ideas. There are ideas like price controls that we have a lot of concerns with, because we really believe that there is so much risk that goes into inventing new medicines. We really need to have a reimbursement system that rewards innovation. Otherwise, we might fall into the trap that other countries have fallen into, particularly Europe, which used to be a leader in biopharmaceutical innovation, but adopted price control policies that really have caused them to fall behind.
Well, people complain about, quote, the high price of prescription drugs. On the other hand, anyone who has cancer or anyone who has some of these terrible diseases, there's almost no amount of money they wouldn't pay to be able to have a cure or something to alleviate the pain and suffering from these terrible diseases. My niece has epilepsy, and it's just been a horrible disease for her, and there's no amount of money my sister wouldn't give to be able to have something that could cure her of that terrible disease. And so we don't want to slow down the race for the cure for these things. And price, I worry that if you put on these kind of price controls, you're going to really slow down medical innovation. And as you said, we've led the way for the last 50 years in almost every major innovation in prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Certainly we don't want patients to bear the brunt of that, cost. And that's why, having, quality insurance, and options for people to access medicines is so important. But as you said, there are reimbursement policies being talked about, that would really undercut U.S. leadership. So importing foreign price controls, for example, is something that we really worry about. Breaking that innovation reward link is something that's really problematic. And, there's other countries that want to take this mantle. We see a lot of research coming out of China now. They have sort of more of they have a really aggressive approach to being a leader in biotech. I attended a scientific meeting earlier, actually it was last year at this point. It was June of last year. And there was sort of the buzz at the meeting was just how many abstracts were coming from scientists in China for new technology in cancer. And so I think they're really, they're looking to be a leader. And so I think we really have to watch that and to take that into account. We don't want to kneecap ourselves with reimbursement policies that would ultimately give them an edge.
So, Mike, we've just got a few minutes left. I'm talking to Mike Ybarra, who is the chief medical officer at PhRMA, so he knows a lot about the drug industry. And I get questions all the time on my show about, prescription drugs and what we can do to speed up the process to get these drugs on the market. My question for you that I'm asked all the time, Mike, is why is it Americans these drugs were developed here? It was basically American tax dollars and private investment dollars that brought these wonder cures. Why is it we pay more for these things than the Canadians do or the Europeans do or the Asian countries do? It seems very unfair to Americans that we pay more for the things we invented than they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that question does come up constantly, and people are right to sort of feel that way if they're being asked to pay, substantially more at the pharmacy counter. And, two things I would say. We pay more for medicines in the U.S. One major reason is what I said a few minutes ago. 50 cents on the dollar goes to somebody other than the manufacturer here in the U.S. that spent years investing in the R&D needed to, bring that technology to market. So sort of there are people that didn't take the risk that have a pretty predictable revenue stream, and that's 50% of the dollar spent here. The other aspect of it is that, unfortunately, other countries are very comfortable sort of delaying access to medicines for their patients while they sort of restrict access, ratchet down, prices and price control. So other patients in other countries do have to wait for new treatments for complex diseases like cancer or rare diseases, and that's also not something that I like to see. For all the faults of the U.S. healthcare system, if you do have a serious condition, there's no place in the world that I would rather be to receive that treatment than here to get the most cutting edge treatment. So those are two big areas, and we really got to fix the challenges that patients face when they do go to the pharmacy counter. And so that's where thinking about ways to lower those costs is really important.
Couldn't agree more. So we got literally 1 minute left, Mike. Where are we? Do you think we're going to see, breakthroughs in cancer, heart disease, MS? Are we getting close?
I certainly hope so. I mean, I've graduated medical school in 2008, so coming up on 20 years in a couple of years. And one of the things that I always tell the medical students I work with when I do work clinically is the stuff that I learned about in medical school has already changed. And my hope for them, the diseases that they've learned about, it is amazing. Like the things that they're learning about in terms of disease prognosis for serious illnesses doesn't have to be that way. So I've seen cancer, really change for several types of cancer. Metastatic melanoma is a a good one, certain types of lung cancer. And so, American Cancer Society just came out with some good data.
Yeah, amazing.
Your survival for cancer is now, 7 out of 10 survive. So cancer does not have to be a death sentence, and we have more work to do.
All right. We got to go, Mike. Thanks so much for imparting your wisdom on us. And we are going to find the race for the cure for these things, but we need the number one pharmaceutical industry in the world. We'll be right back, folks. This is the More Money Show.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.